So how does this connect to money from your lens?
The first chakra, so we have 7 chakras in the body. Some people say there could be more than that, but through my studies and education, we have 7 chakras, and the first chakra is considered the root chakra. It is at the base of the spine, and it is the color red, and it represents stability, safety, connection, a sense of belonging, and self-care. And so when we look at that and we really realize that our relationship to safety and security and stability, money is a very large part of that.
Welcome back for another episode of Real Money. I am your host, Lisa Chastain, and my guest today is Melissa Blynn. Buckle up. This is going to be a raw conversation. If you've ever heard from Melissa, she was on my podcast. She was here in 2022. She's nothing but honest and authentic. Today, we're talking about mind and body. And Melissa and I do a retreat together called Big Magic, and we're on a mission to help women and men, primarily women, break through, bust through limiting beliefs, limiting conversations, and also healing from our past, healing from trauma. And Melissa and I are going to dive in on this conversation. But before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and give a formal introduction. So Melissa and I, like I said, we run retreats. She's a dear friend of mine. Actually, she hired me, one of my first clients, out the gate after I'd written my book. She found me in Las Vegas and she was like, all right, help me.
Yeah.
But
get my shit together.
Help me get my shit together. And in this process, now this is the work that Melissa does through her own journey of healing, which we'll dive into and talk about. But let me give you a good understanding of where Melissa's practicing today. Melissa Blynn, the visionary founder of EpicLuv, is revolutionizing the path to personal transformation and healing for women. With her expertise as a certified psychedelic facilitator, Melissa is among the pioneers of the facilitation and integration of plant medicine, leading women through profound journeys of self-discovery, trauma release, and emotional reconciliation. Melissa's approach is deeply rooted in the power of somatic experience, which is a body-centered approach to treat PTSD. She nurtures a mind-body connection, guiding clients through transformative experiences that unlocked profound physical and emotional healing. Her journey, marked by overcoming immense challenges, including her battles with cancer and the shadows of familial addiction and abuse, have fueled her passion. This unrelenting drive resonates in her mission to empower thousands of women, guiding them to reclaim their lives from the clutches of trauma and addiction. Melissa's work goes beyond service. It's a lifeline, and I truly agree with this. It's a lifeline for those who are seeking ways to rewrite their stories. She's done this work herself for her life. Her innovative methods and compassionate approach make her an ideal thought leader, promising to bring you inspiration, hope, and transformative insights. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. So Melissa's on the heels of her own traumatic experience this week. So we're going to give you grace.
Thanks.
In your energy levels.
Yeah. Appreciate it.
And why Melissa? Why partnership? Through my own journey with NLP, you're also a master practitioner in neurolinguistic programming. We're helping our clients now jointly make the connection between what it is that they want and where they are and their pasts and creating a whole healing experience.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love that. And
we jive well.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
We really do. And for our women, what I can say and know without a shadow of the doubt is when we're in the room with our women, they are cared for.
Yep.
They are loved.
Yep.
They're in a room filled with expertise and support and guidance.
Yep.
And courage. And because you and I have met our own shadows and dealt with our own depth and our own darkness, we guide other women through their own journeys. And I love the work that you do.
Thank you.
I really do.
And I want to add on that also, too. I think women that get in the room with us, a lot of the times it's the first time that they've ever been seen and heard. And we're going to talk about that today.
What's the importance of that? Well, Brené Brown says that the most fundamental human condition is wanting to be seen and heard. And that when we don't feel seen and heard, our brain and our bodies will do whatever it can do to be seen and heard.
Yeah. Or it shuts down, collapses, and it numbs, and it fully disassociates. It does either or.
So how does this connect to money from your lens?
It's really deeply connected to you. And I've talked about this, the first chakra. So we have 7 chakras in the body. Some people say there could be more than that. But through my studies and education, we have 7 chakras. And the first chakra is considered the root chakra. It is at the base of the spine, and it is the color red. And it represents stability, safety, connection, a sense of belonging, and self-care. And so when we look at that, and we really realize that our relationship to safety and security and stability, money is a very large part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are obviously raised in poverty, in scarcity and lack, which I was, obviously I never have felt safe moving from around. I lived in a mobile home, bounced around a lot as a child, was in a foster home. So there was a lack of financial resources and stability and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is 1000% connected, money.
Mm-hmm.
It is deeply interconnected.
For women, I get when I'm in audiences or when I'm on stage and I'm talking to people virtually or otherwise, I ask people, what's important about money to you? And the 2 answers I get in an all-female audience every single time, safety
mm-hmm.
and freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Safety and freedom. And so you're touching on the safety
mm-hmm.
piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
But money doesn't truly make us feel safe.
No.
So that's also a disconnect.
For sure.
That we're looking for something to give us safety.
Yep.
But we have to heal those parts of us.
Yes.
To feel safe.
Yes.
And to attract safe people.
Yes.
And that's been a journey for me.
Yep.
Is attracting safe people and being safe myself.
Yeah. And learning what that means.
And so we make this connection, women, that in order for us to feel safe, we have to have money.
Yep.
But what do we truly have to do to feel safe?
I mean, through the lens and the work that I do, it's from a body-based perspective is we got to be willing to have the courage to, one, take radical responsibility and acknowledge that you don't feel safe.
Mm.
The first step is radical honesty of I don't feel safe and I don't know how to make myself feel safe.
Mm.
I believe that we as a culture and society, especially for women, even in perimenopause, which I am in, you're in perimenopause, a lot of our close friends are either in perimenopause or going into menopause, and there's such this narrative of women are emotional, they're broken, there's something wrong. I mean, we have been oppressed emotionally, and we have culturally suffered, emotionally from that stigma. And so when a woman doesn't feel safe in her emotional expression or even understand why she is acting the way that she is acting and where it is coming from, and understanding that she lacks the education and the tools to do what's called self-regulation, and understanding that. Because the body, just like through NLP, we know that from the time a child is in the mother's womb until 7 years old, there's a lot of imprinting that happens significantly.
Yep.
And so if a child does not have emotional connection, i.e. provided by the primary caregivers, whoever that is, a lot of the times the emotional regulation that we need an adult to provide us with is lacked and neglected and never provided. So therefore, come adolescent, all the hormones come in, happen life experiences. So it becomes this compound effect. And when we hit perimenopause, it's called the quickening. Everything that you haven't dealt with emotionally all of a sudden says, hey, it's time. It's time.
And that's the equivalent of a woman saying, I feel like I've been hit by a Mack truck.
Yes, it is. 100%.
Like all of a sudden.
All of a sudden. It comes out of nowhere.
I can't move.
Yep.
It's wild.
Yep.
That's wild.
Yeah. And that's the gift of the feminine. That's why I'm so passionate about this work, is our body already innately knows. We've just been disconnected from it for hundreds and thousands of years. I want to be mindful, we've been disconnected from the power that our bodies provide us intuitively, emotionally, and we've been disconnected and we've never been educated about it. And now it's time.
Yeah, I think our generation of women are leaning into this conversation, and it's scary.
Yep. Oh, it's
scary.
Yeah.
You text me on the way over here, earlier this morning, where you said, I want to have a real, honest, open conversation.
Yep.
What is it that you want to talk about today that you feel is most important for us to talk about?
I think one thing that's really alive is pain versus pleasure. And you and I talked about this a couple days ago, and I think that's really important to shine a light of awareness on, of that. So many of us, and even me included, I'm not, this last week I was in the ER twice suddenly. And it made me realize, like, I am not fucking invincible. And it made me realize that I'm done learning through pain. Any form of pain, I'm done learning through pain. And again, the language that we see around us, keep pushing through, keep hustle, keep grinding, like the language that we use. And from a somatics lens, my whole adolescent was painful.
In what way?
Both my parents were addicts. My mom did cocaine when she was pregnant with me, and then when she delivered me, she made the radical decision to quit drugs, and my dad wouldn't quit. And she left, and I was raised by my father, but my father was an addict. Both of them were highly emotionally disassociated. I was a child of what's called parent alienation, where my dad brainwashed me that my mom physically and verbally abused me. I was sexually abused by my uncle when I was 6 years old. I mean, in the lens of pain versus pleasure, I had complex trauma before I was 7 years old. And the definition of complex trauma is too much, too fast, too soon. And my brain and body could not correlate it. It was physically impossible because I'm underdeveloped. And so my belief system, as you know, through NLP, I had adopted the belief that pain is normal. And that
pain is love.
Pain is love. Oh, for sure. Pain is love. And that a lot of the choices that I was making was painful. My first marriage was physically abusive. I filed bankruptcy by the time I was 24 years old. I abused my body. I abused it with tons of alcohol. I lost my virginity, consensually wise, at 12 years old, and I annihilated myself, had 2 abortions before I was 24. And so my body had developed the neural pathways that pain is normal. Pain is normal. And so I would unconsciously seek out more painful experiences with men, painful experiences with money. I was seeking out pain.
Why?
Because
I thought, I know someone's asking this question right now because they've done the same thing.
Oh, of course. 100%.
Why?
I thought it was normal. My brain and body thought it was normal. And then when I would have a realization of like, oh, this isn't normal, that's when I leaned in and did more work. The first time that I really put my foot down and I was like, something's wrong and I'm part of the problem.
When was that?
I was 21. I got cancer at 18, went through a whole
What kind of cancer?
Cervical cancer. Okay. And through NLP lens, cancer is, conflict.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of it in my family and my upbringing. And so even when I got diagnosed with cancer, I was still abusing my body significantly. It was until I was 21, I was hit at 100 miles an hour at a dead stop. And I fractured my tailbone on impact. And I remember being placed on short-term disability bed rest for 6 months. And I remember the doctor said, you need to take pain medication to manage the pain. And I remember looking at him and I said, I will not take pain medication because I'm afraid to death to become an addict like my mom.
Yeah.
And it was in that moment that something snapped and I realized that the way that I had been going about my life, I was killing myself.
Yeah.
And I leaned in and I was like, I need help and I need help now. I need help.
That's a big awakening for a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah, I was 21.
21. That's a big awakening for a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
And from the place of radical responsibility, what we know now is that your unconscious mind was creating those events.
Yes, it was. And
so
hold
on for the listener, okay?
And so is my body.
Okay. Because that's my new book coming out. I tell part of your story in my book from our first podcast interview.
Yeah.
And it's radical in your words and challenging to realize you didn't know this at 21.
No.
But this is the conversation I'm having on the show over and over again, is that you attracted those experiences unconsciously from a belief that you had or a conflict that you had. And those events just kept manifesting.
Mm-hmm.
And they still manifest, even though you and I have done a ton of work.
They just manifested in my last relationship.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
That the radical responsibility we're talking about is that you are 1000% the owner and author of your life.
1000%. I'm 100%.
Even though
yes,
you had all of these things happen to you. At 21, did that change the way that you saw your life?
It started to slowly. I remember, taking radical responsibility, I was like, okay, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I started studying Kabbalah. Madonna used to do it back in the day.
What is it?
Kabbalah is a Jewish mysticism for wisdom. Kabbalah's whole belief system. I'm not religious. I'm spiritual. We'll pick up whatever you want from it. But it's basically their whole philosophy is that you are the creator. You chose your parents. I chose my mom and my father to reincarnate into this lifetime to heal. And their whole belief is that I have a responsibility to heal. They call it tycoon, and that means your soul. And so I remember I was introduced to it, and I went, and I really appreciated the approach of it. And I remember my Kabbalah teacher at the time said, how's your relationship with your mom? And at the time, I was like, oh, my mom's my best friend. Never did any work healing the feminine by then, just keep it real. What I thought was healthy with my mom. And they said, and how's your relationship with your dad? And I was like, oh, my dad and I, we hadn't talked, and I kind of brushed it off. We hadn't talked in a few years. I was like, he chose not to be a part of my life. And and he kept digging and digging, which us great coaches know.
Yep.
They call it the onion. Get to the core.
Yeah.
And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And he was like, I will never forget it. He said, you're of age now. You don't get to blame your parents for your problems. And I was like, fuck. I was like, ugh. It was a fucking sucker punch, and they were like, sorry. And if it wasn't for that teacher, I wouldn't have made amends with my father, which I ended up making amends with my father and healing that relationship. And I'm so ever grateful for that, for healing that, because I spent 13 years healing that relationship.
Let's go back to, and I'm glad that you did that too.
Oh, for sure.
And let's go back to the pain versus pleasure model, because at 21, you had an awakening, and then you had some more learning, and then you realized, which I think we all can learn from, is that at some point you can't blame your parents.
No.
And life changes forever when you start taking responsibility 100%. For your choices, even from a young age.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pain versus pleasure.
Yep.
Pain is more comfortable than pleasure because pain is how we've learned.
Yep.
Not for everyone.
Yep.
But for some of us. I know for me that was the case. I didn't get acknowledged as a kid for the good things that I did. I got slapped on the wrist or set back or challenged when I did things that my parents didn't like. So I learned through painful experiences to get attention, to get my needs met. At 17, I gave up my virginity. I won't even say that I lost it because I made a choice to do that. And it wasn't a happy, pleasureful experience. It was like, fuck you to the world. Let me just get this over with because I don't want to be perfect anymore. My mom told me I was in too big of a hurry to make mistakes.
Okay.
What I know about myself now is that I learn by mistakes.
100%.
And I'm here to heal. What's the difference then between pain and pleasure?
So from a somatics lens, this will be very easy. Somatic means body, okay? And so our body has an innate wisdom called the automatic nervous system. And so at every given moment of our day, our nervous system is scanning the room to see if we are safe or not.
Is this men and women?
Men and women.
Okay.
Men and women. Our innate automatic nervous system is always constantly scanning the room to make sure it's safe.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for some of us, like myself, growing up with addict family, I was always on edge and anxiety because I didn't know what side of my father I was going to get because there was just this erratic abuse with drugs. And so my nervous system had associated being high on anxiety, waiting for the other shoe to fall off the foot, and a feeling of being abandoned and that I did something wrong. And so even when my dad would do body language like this, my mind had associated, I did something wrong. I'm a bad child. Something's wrong. And so from that imprinting through that environment that I was in as a child, fast forward as an adult, I could be in a room with a guy, completely aware, completely sober and conscious. And if I have not done the work to repair that via, i.e. body, my body is most likely going to do what's called neuroception. Neuro meaning brain, ception being body. My brain goes back like a tab of a computer and goes back to any experiences with men. Okay. And then my body, ception being environment, it's going to go back to the last experience via nervous system, what it predominantly experienced.
And attract that. Jesus Lord.
So I could be in a room with a guy who was completely safe, looking at me, having a normal conversation, but my body would perceive that he was a threat and that I was not safe, which led me to alcohol to suppress communicating because I would stumble on my words, I would get stuck, I would freak out. But my body is like, oh, no, you're not safe. I can't talk to you. So it shut down and collapse is what we call it in somatics. It literally shuts down and collapses. So our neuroception is always scanning the room to create internal safety. But a lot of the times for some of us, we're either in a state of fight or flight.
Or freeze.
Or completely disassociate. And again, that's because your brain is scanning and guess what we do on top of that? We create our own environment. We create our own environment. And so when we create our own environment, if my nervous system had familiarity more with anxiety and being on eggshells, I would stack my schedule. I would be busy with everything. I would just overwhelm myself because my body didn't understand what it meant to have internal safety, where I feel a sense of open and connected in my nervous system. I had to train my body to understand the difference between pain and pleasure. And now I'm 43 and it is very online and it knows very crystal clear to the point to where I can literally manifest in my body a dis-ease very quickly when something in my outer world is painful and it is not serving me.
So let's talk about that distinction. That's a clear distinction of how and why we attract the experiences that we attract, and also why some people can't explain what happens, but there's something that triggers. It's called a trigger. That'll trigger you, and your body goes into an automatic response. And it's how you've been programmed. Not from someone else, but literally how you've programmed yourself to deal with your environment, to deal with your life, aka to survive. And it happens to all of us. Some of us in more abusive, chaotic environments than others, but we all go through trauma. One of my friends, Kimberly, calls it big T or little t. You either have you had big T, big trauma, complex trauma, but then there's still, to connect to anybody listening, there's still these little traumas that we have in life.
Absolutely.
We wire ourselves in. We're trying to stay safe. We're making sense of the world around us. What's the difference between someone living in a pain paradigm versus someone who's in a pleasure paradigm?
So I want to make sure I understand you. So let me give some context to this. You can have a child growing up in an environment where mom and dad are fully present and they're in
Regulated.
Yes, regulated, right? No yelling, no screaming, maybe no fighting, but they can be very emotionally disassociated from their child.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what happens is when a child is seeking regulation, a child will get dysregulated. We know this.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a kid stomping its foot? It's because it's trying to discharge the energy, the too much energy in the body to get it out.
Yeah.
You could be raised in a family where both parents are fully present, and if the child is left to their own demise to regulate, that child most likely will grow up with what's called an avoidant attachment style. And it means that when someone attempts to get close to them emotionally, they're out.
Mm-hmm.
Closeness scares the ever-loving shit out of them because they don't have reference with it. And so therefore,
It was never installed into them.
It was never installed into them. So their brain and body could perceive it as a threat. So we could say like, and even people will say, well, like I had a normal childhood. My mom and dad were there, and they may have never experienced the big T, but they experienced the subtle T, a small T, because their parents never soothed them when they needed to be soothed. They were left to their own demise to soothe.
So that's the pain.
That's the pain.
Model.
That's the pain.
Yeah.
That's the pain. And so when we talk about pleasure, I want to be very clear on this. I'm not referring to sexual pleasure. And so when I use this word, I want to be very mindful that it's like when I use it with women, a lot of them can associate it to like, sex and intimacy and, someone outside of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure through Somatic's lens is doing something body-based that brings you into regulation that feels good to the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And it's regulating to the nervous system.
Okay.
So for someone who is in hyper arousal for long periods of time, they're used to that go, go, go. The goal to get them to practice and be with and understand is down-regulating their nervous system into doing something self-regulating that actually feels pleasurable and good to their body instead of more. So it could literally be, sitting in their backyard and drinking a cup of tea and just no technology and giving themselves like 5-10 minutes to just be by themselves with no stimulation. We call this pendulation and titration in the nervous system. So think of like contraction and then expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's pain, a lot of the times we could be in an expansion, but then the nervous system contracts.
Mm-hmm.
You want to get someone to be able to understand, okay, it's safe to have a little bit of contraction. If you're outward, always expanding in pain, must go, must now.
And is that a hypermasculine trait or?
No, it's across the board.
Okay.
It's not that it's masculine or feminine. It's just the way that the nervous system, whether you're male or female, fires.
So is that like someone who's a workaholic?
100%.
Okay. Or someone who's a gymaholic?
Yep.
Or someone who is an alcoholic?
Yeah.
All of that go.
Yeah.
Symptomology. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a pain model.
That's a pain model. Because what's happening in those moments is that the nervous system, again, is doing anything and everything to attempt to protect the system at all cost. But you and I know that as we get older, that's not sustainable.
Mm-mm.
We cannot sustain our coping strategies, whether it's workaholic, whether it's gymholic, whether it's
spending,
eventually something will give.
Or move.
Yeah.
They'll move.
Yep.
Move.
Mm-hmm. Go. The nervous system will eventually say, I'm done.
Yeah.
And this is where we see someone's physiological state completely shut down through illness.
So something that we're teaching, this is great because as a listener, hopefully you're realizing like, oh my God, where am I in the mix of this?
Yep.
And I always want to point it back to you listening or watching to say, okay, how does this apply to me? How does this relate to me? And we'll talk about some ways that this shows up in the clients that we work with. But if you've not ever felt safe or it wasn't installed into you and you're running patterns in your life, in relationship, in work, with money,
mm-hmm.
There's
Yep.
there's pain paradigms with money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Gambling.
Yep.
I had Tony Robbins, former CFO, who was in this loop of earn, like more money, more money, more money, more money, more money. And there's
Yep.
never enough money.
Yep.
That's an overdrive.
Yep.
Your body, your nervous system's in overdrive because it doesn't feel safe.
Mm-mm.
Because it doesn't feel safe. It never learned how to feel safe. You never taught your body how to feel safe. Swinging over to pleasure, what you and I are doing is helping our clients rewire and learn how to slow down, how to enjoy, how to be present, and how to feel. And for someone who's never done that, someone would almost rather die than cross over into that experience. And we've seen people who are like, oh my God, this doesn't feel safe. I can't do this. And this is why I don't teach budgets. This exact conversation to start is if you're in an unhealthy pattern, you must heal first. And the healing requires you to do things differently.
Yes, it does. I mean, we've talked about this on past podcasts. I mean, I remember drinking a shit ton of alcohol when I would sit down to do my bills.
What's a shit ton?
Probably a bottle of wine in one sitting.
And how much do you weigh? Like 110 pounds?
Pretty much.
Soaking wet?
Yeah.
95 pounds? I won't give your weight.
I mean, after being in the ER twice this week, who fucking knows at this point? Let's just keep it real. Like, I don't know. My nervous system was shot from this week, you know? So, yeah, I mean, I drank a lot of alcohol around my relationship with money. And we've talked about this before, you know, the limiting belief that I had as a child was that money and men were not safe together. And then when I became a teenager, my mom would make me go home at lunch and take the mail and stick it in her underwear drawer because she would open up credit cards and hide it from my stepdad. Now, both my mom and stepdad had an addiction to gambling. And so all through, junior high, I watched them struggle with trying to pay the bills. And it was always lack, always lack, always lack. And so I remember sitting down looking to pay my bills and I would freak out of like, where's the money going to come? Where's the money going to come? And so when I would sit down and the mind was already in a lack state, my nervous system followed with a response of I'm not safe. So I would use alcohol as I would pay bills to suppress my nervous system response and fear. Now, since the work that you and I have done, and I've had a lot of help with money, and I still ask for help with money. Like, I'm no expert, but, you know, one of the things that's really been beneficial for me is getting educated about cash flow and that my money is safe. And I am. And when I learn about it and understand it, it's here to support me. It's a tool, just like somatic therapy. When you learn how to self-regulate yourself and you learn how to get back into safety, when you feel dysregulated or when you know who in your environment feels safe to do what's called co-regulation, your nervous system and your brain become very resilient and it allows you to go through bigger life challenges and you can handle it without burning the fucking house down.
Yeah, that's
and
important.
So the resiliency is super, super important with it. And so, you know, coming back to money, my nervous system had always believed like, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. And I mean, we've talked about this before, like even in my just last recent relationship, like money conversations were always being talked about.
Yeah.
And it was still crunchy, you know, it was still super crunchy, but I was clear and I was safe and I trusted myself.
Yes.
But that didn't happen overnight.
No, it's been years.
It's been years.
You and I met in 2018.
Yeah.
Or 2019. Yeah.
It's been years.
It's been years. So here's the pattern and the cycle, and I'm going to relate it specifically to money, is that if when you're running patterns that self-sabotage, that don't make you feel good, to keep the language very simple. Running patterns of whatever that looks like for you. You're in a dysregulated environment.
Yes.
Your nervous system is not regulated.
Yes.
And so there's two things that happen with my clients when I'm teaching is someone will say safety is important to them.
Yep.
Because that's their conscious answer.
Yep.
And that's what they think it should be.
Yes.
Safety.
Yes.
And unconsciously your brain is saying, I don't feel safe.
Yes. And their body's saying, I don't feel safe either.
Or I don't feel anything at all.
Bingo. Yep.
And the conversations that I'm having with clients after I create safety with them where they know and realize with me they're not going to be judged.
Yep.
I'm not going to shame them.
Yep.
I'm neutral.
Yep.
I'm here to help them.
Yep.
It takes a few hours
Yeah.
for a client to realize, their nervous system to realize with me that they're safe.
Yep.
And that's when the work begins.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, oh, she's confidential, trustworthy, kind.
Mm-hmm.
That's pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
That feels good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to beat up on them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then that's when the real shit comes out.
Yep.
That's when the past comes out.
Yes.
That's when the story comes out.
Yep.
That's when the I'm not happy comes out, or I want a divorce comes out.
Yeah.
Because you've spent so much time being who you've needed to be to just survive.
Yes.
And this is what I tell people all the time. And I know we've done this in the rooms together, is looking at someone and saying, it's not your fault.
Yeah.
You've done your best.
Yep.
You've done what you can do.
Yep.
It's a learning process.
Yep.
So why don't we not beat up on ourselves? Why don't we not?
Oh yeah, no, for
right?
sure. I'm good.
Why don't
real good.
we not go down that path again?
Yeah.
Let's teach you how to heal.
Yep.
And teach you how to feel safe and teach you how to feel good.
Yep.
And it's a journey.
And a lot of the times the reason, especially when there's that shame or that guilt that's happening, I tell clients, like, if you hold shame and guilt, I'm a bad person, I did something wrong. From a nervous system perspective, the body's registering is in complete shutdown collapse. And so think of like a child sitting in the corner. Physiologically, their shoulders hunch over, their tonality gets quiet. It's almost like you're doing this to kind of get something out of them. It's because that I'm guilty, I did something bad. Now, sometimes if a person's been in a fight or flight for a long period of time, that pendulum can swing and it'll completely drop them into dorsal vagal shutdown. And then they'll go into shame and guilt they're going to psychoanalyze all of the things I did wrong. I'm a bad person. But through the work that you and I do, it's like, let's teach you how to physiologically get to safety, give your nervous system some energy so you feel safe, to then turn towards the thing that you're ready to face and learn. That you're ready to face and you're ready to learn. And that's why I think you and I are such a beautiful duo together. It's because it does require both the mind and it does require the body. Yeah. You cannot do one without the other.
It feels really scary. It feels really scary. So I remember my first somatic training with Sylvia. Shout out to you, Sylvia. I love you so much. Where we're in this training room and she takes us into breathwork.
Okay.
And my body wanted to do everything to get out of that room.
Yeah.
Because feeling felt so unsafe. I felt like if I felt something, I was going to die. It felt so strong. And I never learned from my parents how to regulate or how to feel. And when I did feel, I got shut down or made fun of. And I was like, I actually felt like I could have died. Yeah. Because your body goes into, my body just went into shutdown and lockdown and freeze. But then I told myself, this is your ticket to freedom, Lisa. This is your ticket to freedom. Yeah. Have the courage. Yeah. And I had to keep reminding myself, you're safe. Yeah. You're safe. Yep. You're safe. You're safe. Yeah. And I just, that was like in mantra. Yeah. And I did it. Yeah. Over and 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 over again. Yep. And I have clients that I've been with for years now, and so have you, elevating, working, because this is not linear work.
No, it is not. It is cyclical, honey.
It is cyclical, which this is a good segue. Do you feel safe and comfortable to open up and share these learnings that you had?
Yeah.
What present in this moment, just in that circular, cyclical kind of experience, what are you learning now for yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question. So here's what's alive.
Yeah.
So I've been over the years working with my intuition, and I do certain herbs to help access my unconscious mind while I sleep. And I've got pretty much to the point to where I can have a dream and it happens in real time and in the next day or real time. And I can pinpoint who or what it's linked to pretty quickly. And I was in a recent relationship, which I'm not anymore. And for privacy,
of course.
The relationship, at first he was progressing very quickly towards me, and I pumped the brakes because through Somatic's lens, big T is too much too fast. And we live in a culture where everything's so fucking fast.
It really is.
It's disgusting. It's like too much too fast. We cannot process. It's physically incapable. So I already knew when I felt the sensation of too much too fast, I had articulated the language to pump the brake and pump the brake.
We had that conversation.
Pump the brake.
And because you're trained to pay attention to your body, you couldn't even say it. You felt it before you could say it.
Yes, correct.
Okay. So this is the modeling of the conversation. You were like, we need to talk.
Yes.
We hopped on a call.
Yep.
You said, here's where I'm at.
Yep.
And I said, okay, right? Like, here's what needs to happen.
Yep.
And you slowed it down.
Yeah.
Because that's what you needed.
I needed to slow down.
Uh-huh.
And I knew it. I already intuitively knew it. And so when I communicated that, it was matched with respect, which showed me my growth. It wasn't met with name calling or challenging. It was met with respect. So he respected that. And then as the friendship developed, trust started to develop. And so for me, going slow to develop safety and trust, and time went on and trusty. So we proceeded it to engage in it, made the conscious decision as an intimate relationship. And we were navigating some financial things, location, geographically, we live in 2 different states, and we were navigating that. And then, intimately wise, there would be times in our intimacy, and when I mean intimacy and sexual experiences, there were things that he sexually preferred that I did not like, and that made me feel uncomfortable. And he was very respectful in that, like there was not like any violating in any aspect. But there were a couple of times, there were some things the way that he would touch me, and it just felt very off, like something's wrong. And I remember shortly having some dreams associated to why I was having that reaction, because I asked my body, like, show me, why is my body reacting to this behavior? And my body showed me a very clear message that, and I might get emotional, I was choked when I was sexually abused. And so a lot of sex that I had at a very young age was painful and it was forceful. And not that it was with this person, like I want to be very clear, there was mutual consent, but there was energetically, he enjoyed that. He enjoyed pain. He enjoyed feeling that. And there was an association for him of that. Yeah. And my body was like, oh, fuck, you don't learn through that no more.
Yeah.
And because I listened to the wisdom of my body, I had got a UTI infection with blood in my urine 4 weeks ago. And that was the first thing of like, nope. And then last week I ended up in the ER with a cyst.
Yeah.
And so my body was like, there is a massive conflict and a disagreement on the way that we see intimacy, the way that we see communication and repair. We just don't jive. And it's time to end.
So this is a good learning.
Yes.
From what we know, because you and I had these conversations offline, is that our body keeps score.
Yes, it does.
And through neurolinguistic programming, what happens in our brain then conflicts, decisions, beliefs, if they aren't resolved because we have significant emotional events happen, if we don't resolve them, our body will.
Mm-hmm. And I knew that's what was happening. I knew that what was happening.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very fortunate, you know, like him and I were able to have, you know, some very, you know, meaningful conversations. You know, he was super supportive. He did end up going to the ER with me, like not a bad person, you know, but there is our view of intimacy is very, very different. Our view of safety is very, very different. Because I know his background, he learned through a massive pain background with intimacy.
Yeah.
And I saw that, you know, we were about 5-6 months in, and I started to see that slowly coming up.
As it pertains to money.
As for sure with money too, like big time. And so it started to slowly bubble up to the surface, and my body was saying, no, no more. You don't need to learn through this.
How do you know? So thinking about someone who is disassociated, women who have learned through pain, who are still living in pain, often are disassociated. It shows up as they think in their heads, but they don't feel in their bodies. How do you start the journey of, this is years in the works for you. You've been doing this for a long time, but for someone who's saying, well, how do I get to know my body? What are some first steps there? Because this is all connected to our relationship with money.
Yes.
All of it.
Everything.
And if you've never felt it before, where do you start?
One of the things that I tell women to do, obviously going back to the root chakra, right? We chose to be in this meat suit. You chose to be in this meat suit. And so being in our bodies requires us to slow down and connect to the body. And a lot of the times I'll have clients just place their hand on their heart and hand on their belly. Sometimes closing their eyes elicits a trauma response. It doesn't feel safe. So I'll have them draw their eyes soft and down, and I'll have them just track their breath. And I'll put them in just a slight box breathing just to bring them into the present moment. And I usually tell women the nervous system needs about 3 to 5 minutes to get in and to somewhat slow down and regulate, so the brain is not in causing like, I'm not safe.
3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, 3 to 5 minutes. And so really, truly, like I tell people, touch somewhere on your body, because somatic is body. Put your hand somewhere on your body and just allow yourself to just breathe and be in your body, just witnessing what's alive with no judgment, no shame. And I've now to the point where I'm like, okay, body, thank you, body, for showing me where the fuck I'm not free.
Yeah.
Thank you, body. Instead of punishing my body and shaming it, I tell my body, thank you for showing me where I'm not free. You know? And so the easiest method is to slow down, place your hands on your body, get the brain to slow down, get the body to slow down, and you can simply ask it, what does it need just now in this moment? And sometimes it may like, I just want a blanket. Okay, let's get you a blanket. I want mac and cheese. Okay, let's figure out how to get you mac and cheese. Whatever it is, don't judge it. The body wants it. Don't judge it.
Right.
And so it's really teaching people to slow down and talk to the innate wisdom because it is in you. And the only reason for me why I can process pretty quickly and move through big, obviously, things is because I'm just more resourced because I've had practice. That's all. Anyone can do this. I'm not no superhero. Anybody can do this.
But they have to have the courage.
But they have to have the courage to want to lean in.
Yeah.
Want to lean in.
Yeah.
Want to lean in.
Lean in. That's intense. That's intense. It's so necessary, Melissa.
I know.
It's so necessary. We have women who come to us who are in so much pain.
Yes.
And not safe.
Yep.
To share it.
Yep.
Not safe to share it.
Yep.
And so rather than making this a masculine male versus, right?
Yep.
The biggest point of all of it is it's your job.
Yes.
It's your job to heal it.
Yep.
It's your job to take it on.
Yep.
And if you truly want to grow and evolve and learn, it's an all-in kind of game.
Yes. And, going back to the masculine and feminine, when you were speaking about breathwork, I remember in 2022, and at that point I had been practicing breathwork for about 2.5 years. And I remember it was at a Fit for Service summit. And I remember going in with the intention of, show me why my dad shut down. Show me why my dad shut down. And I had cognitively known what had happened. And in breathwork, because breathwork, depending on the style of breathwork, again, it's a somatic practice, your brain can release DMT, which can cause a hallucinogenic effect. It can release auditory, kinesthetic, visual aspects of it for the body to discharge and show you what it needs to heal.
Is that what happens in breathwork when people go deep into breathwork?
Yes.
Okay.
So I always express to clients, number 1, know your facilitator. Number 2, if you come with a lot of unresolved stuff, I usually don't suggest going to some big breathwork experience, because a lot of the times that could be too much too fast, and it can actually re-traumatize somebody. So I tell people
I've seen that happen.
oh yeah, and it's alarming, and so it's I did most of my breath work for the first couple years with less than 5 people. And I needed that. And now I know what I know. You don't want to do too much too fast. So, but now like me, who's, I've got almost 5 years underneath my belt, I can go in a room with 250 people and I'm okay.
Because you got you.
Yeah, I have, and I know how to.
You trust yourself.
I trust myself and I know how to. I know how to.
But not,
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because what's happening is when you're breathing and you drop in and you go into an intention like I went into, if you're an individual that there was, whether it was little t or big T, and your body wants to discharge it. And so discharging in definition is it wants to close the loop out of the system. That's all it wants to do.
Yeah.
And so if you see an experience or feel an experience or hear an experience in that, and you've never witnessed that or experienced, you can have a full-on panic attack. So you need to be with somebody that knows how to
help you get back online
immediately. Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately for resourcing. And so I'm really passionate about this. And I think this is a space that's not really talked about enough. Going back
especially
to
when
safety.
you talk about money.
It needs to be talked about.
Yeah. That's why we're here.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears. Let's talk about success. Because you work with very successful women.
I do.
High profile careers, high profile lives. So do I.
Yep.
Women who are running multi-million-dollar businesses or companies as executives. And they come to us not online.
Yep.
Stressed out.
Yep.
Needing support financially to figure out their finances. How does someone slow down and also still have success? Because they feel very opposite of one another from what we've learned in our society.
Yep.
How do you start? How do you reconcile the two? Because you can have both.
I have
figured out how to have both.
Yeah.
I'm figuring out how to have both.
Yep.
But for someone who can't reconcile that, where do they start?
I think the biggest thing is acknowledging that there is a part of you that believes that burnout and do and put more on my plate equals success, first and foremost. I believe that it takes a recognition of admitting that based off results, what I'm doing is actually not working anymore. I think that's the first step, is acknowledging that, which is huge.
Because it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good anymore.
Yeah. And again, a lot of women that come to me, and I can't speak on you, but I'm going to make a generous assumption that especially with women when they're hitting perimenopause in their early 40s and getting into 50s, their bodies cannot bounce back like it did in 20s and 30s because the resiliency is not there due to the progesterone and estrogen that is so robust when we're young. And so we're seeing women coming to us because physiologically their body is starting to shut down.
Mm-hmm.
The weight gain, the brain fog, the irritability, like you name it, it's happening, And so I think the first thing is having the courage to go, okay, how I've been running or what I've been doing to grow my success, it worked this way maybe in my 20s and 30s, but now in my 40s, something needs to die off in order something needs to be reborn. And when something needs to die, we have to look at what are the parts of ourselves that need to die that don't serve us at this stage in our life. And then the next step is figuring out what is the fear and the block. And the fear could be like, I don't have enough money, which drives that. The fear could be, for me, it was like, I don't want to rely on a man, so I'm going to become fucking hyper independent and I'm not going to ask for help. And so I never asked for help, now. And so it's really identifying what is actually driving that belief and understanding that, and when you can understand where that's coming from and you let those parts of yourself die off slowly and safely, you can create success in a new way.
Yeah.
When I moved to California 5 years ago, I made a commitment that I will never work 10, 12-hour days that I did, and it almost killed me.
Yeah.
And when I moved to the beach, it was like, no, I'm only going to work this amount of hours. And, I'm going to start my day at like 10 o'clock in the morning because I need my mornings to be for myself. And that was a promise that I made 5 years ago. And my revenue has tripled since that.
Yep.
That's a fact.
Yeah, I know. I know.
It's possible.
I'm going to say that you can't afford to not slow down.
No.
You can't afford to not pay attention.
No.
I don't believe with my trainings anymore that there's anything that really is a block, but it's our unconscious mind's way of just suppressing anything that isn't resolved. So anger, sadness, fear, hurt, and guilt, any memory that has an unresolved negative emotion.
Conflict.
Our body just goes, whoop.
Yep.
Last year, I had a conflict it's called a separation conflict. And so based on your conflicts and things that are going on in your body, they show up in your body in different places.
Yeah.
For me, it was in my hairline.
Okay.
Straight down the middle. I was losing hair. Little patches of hair. And I thought, it's just COVID. I had COVID.
Okay.
That was the first time I experienced hair loss, which was a traumatic event.
Yep.
No. Separation conflict. There were people in my life that I needed to let go of, and I was not, and it was causing me a lot of pain. I had to forgive some people. I had to do the thing.
Yep.
And I had to heal myself.
Yep.
And slowly over time. So if you've seen me on YouTube, sometimes I have hair that just sticks straight up.
Yeah.
Because I'm still healing that part of me.
Yeah.
And we all do. So to finish this episode with strength and power and purpose, what you're going through, what I'm going through, what anybody is going through can be purposeful if you say so, because you came here to learn what you came here to learn. But in order for you to have the freedom you want, in order for you to have the fun that you want, in order to have the pleasure and the purpose and the impact, whatever's important to you, you've got to dial in.
Yeah.
And get to know yourself.
Yep.
Which requires you to slow down.
Yep.
Be intentional.
Yep.
And you can't do this alone.
No.
Transformation does not happen privately.
No. Absolutely
Isolation is a form of sickness.
Yes, it is.
And
yes,
it's killing people.
Yes, it is.
That we have to somehow isolate and heal ourselves.
Yep.
The most important journey of all is to get into a room or to get with someone, if it's just one person, who is safe and who is trained.
Yes.
To help you work through what you need to work through.
Yes.
So that you can have what it is that you want.
100%.
Yeah. And you've done that.
1,000%.
You're still doing it.
1,000%.
I'm doing it.
100%, girl. We keep going.
Oh my gosh. I have epiphanies all the time now.
Yeah. I mean, I was just in my OBGYN office, getting some shit going on. I'm a realist. Anyone watching, plug your ears, whatever. But, if you know me, it's like I'm in the OBGYN, I'm crying, I'm having a moment, going through my processing. And then I show up here and it's like, this is the real shit.
Yeah.
This is why we do what we do. You will bump up against your next edge at every different stage of your life.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't a one-stop shop. It does not ever, ever end. It is always evolving and growing, just like the fucking trees and the bushes out in our front yard.
Mm-hmm.
But we as humans, we hold on to things so tightly. We hold on to beliefs that were generational. That shit's outdated.
Yeah.
We hold on to things to the point that it becomes so unbearable in our bodies and in our psychosis that we snap.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the work that you and I are doing.
Helping people
100%.
heal.
Yes.
This work is not just for women.
No.
You and I work with women exclusively in our training rooms.
Yep.
And men are doing this work too.
Yes, they are.
It's not just a female thing.
No.
Men are hurting just as much as women are hurting.
Yes.
And so for couples that are listening to this, if you're a wifey and you're listening to this is work that you and your husband can do together.
Yes. Yep.
But don't make it someone else's job to heal.
No.
You've got to step into the ring yourself.
Yeah.
And begin your healing process. I get this question from parents all the time once they realize, like, oh my God.
Yep.
Well, my childhood was crazy. I don't want my kids to have the same experience. What do I do?
Yep.
Heal yourself.
Yep. Take radical responsibility for you and embody those changes. Embody that.
Yeah. And then your kids will.
Yes.
We can do the work with the kids too.
Yes.
Heal yourself first.
Yes. Yes.
What do you want to leave to our listener today? What do you want them to hear?
Well, there's two things I want to bring up in regards to men really quick. You know, when I did have that breathwork journey and I asked about my dad's pain, I got to watch my father. I saw my father take his first hit of cocaine of 18 when he lost his dad, because when he lost his dad, my grandmother became cold and mean. And my grandma, God rest her soul, she had severe RA. She was a mean old woman and nasty and cold. And she hated God for killing her, or supposedly killing her husband. And through her coldness, her feminine shut all the way down. And my father needed her nurturing love. And so I really want to be clear, men need this work just as much as women do, because we as women, we bleed on men too.
Oh, yeah.
We bleed on men too. And
I bled all over my ex-husband.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
so it's like, fuck the fucking feminine movement and fuck the masculine movement. We need to take radical responsibility. We do it to each other. And enough is enough. Enough is enough. So my first takeaway is, if you're blaming the masculine for where you are,
look at that.
You need to look at that.
Get curious.
Yeah. You need to you need to look at that. Because it's within yourself, number one. The other biggest takeaway that I would probably want to say today is that make your body your friend. Even if it's once a day, like placing your hands on your body saying, you know, thank you, body, you know, for giving me another day, showing me what I need to see. Even when you get an illness or a cold, thank you, body, for showing me what I need more of right now. We need colds. When we get a cold, your body needs nurturing. It's showing you. So instead of punishing it, thank it. Give it compassion. Give it curiosity. You know, give it grace. And when you befriend that and work with that, bam, magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah. And how we do one thing in our life is how we do everything in our life. So if you're looking to have a regulated, happy, healthy relationship with money, start working on yourself.
100%.
You can't just put a budget in place.
No.
Work with your body, work to heal, work to learn what it's like to have a fun, healthy relationship with money instead of a pain paradigm relationship with money.
I mean, you were the one that helped me create my play account to go to Disneyland. You know what I'm saying? It's like, but again, the belief was money wasn't safe, you know, and there wasn't enough money. So my pattern was I would never let myself go have fun and enjoy life, you know, and play and have fun.
Yeah.
You know, and now I do, you know, and it's healthy. It's vital.
It is no one else's job but your own to heal, to be safe, to be free. And this is the work that I hope every single woman on the planet gets to do for herself, to realize that it's her job to live the life that she wants to live, to make the money that she wants to make, to liberate herself. And it starts with this conversation.
Yes, it does.
Thank you for being on the show today.
Thanks, Lisa.
Yeah. So Melissa and I have a retreat coming up.
I was waiting for you to bring that up. Just keeping it real.
Yeah. It's called Big Magic.
Magic.
We did our first retreat last summer together. It was magical.
Yeah.
The women who came out of that retreat are having huge transformation.
Big time.
Huge healing, huge ahas.
Big time.
And the work continues. Mm-hmm. So they're all working with us still individually. Mm-hmm. We're doing the retreat again in April. Mm-hmm. We are doing this intentionally to have a small number of women who want to do this work with us for themselves and in a safe, loving environment.
Yes.
So this retreat is April 10th.
Yes.
In San Clemente, California.
Yeah.
You can learn more on the website, lisachastain.com/big-magic. And we are then taking this retreat to Costa Rica.
Yeah, baby.
In 2026.
Yes, we are.
So if you want to be on the healing train with us,
come on.
Shout out.
Yes.
Shout out. Follow Melissa on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
my_EpicLuv. And it's EpicLuv.
Yeah, my_EpicLuv. We go live on Instagram together. Yep. Join us in the conversation. Yep. It really is not one or the other. If you're going to have a whole healthy, healed life with money and everything else, it starts within.
Yep.
And look us up. Join us at the retreat. Let us know what questions you have. And more than anything, I'm so grateful that you are here, a part of the real money conversation. I hope that this conversation has been valuable for you. I hope you've learned some things. Share this out with a sister, a friend, a partner. Have the conversation together. My biggest action step for you today is ask yourself, Melissa, you do such a beautiful job of this, is where am I not free?
Yep.
Where am I not free?
Yep.
Let's do the work together to help you feel that. Feel free, feel safe, feel loved, feel whole.
Feel connected.
Mm-hmm. And let's enjoy our lives together.
Amen.
Amen. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next episode of Real Money right here. So glad you're here.
Thank you, love.
Yeah.